Hello and welcome to another review. This time 6-axle heavy freight electric locomotive, Polish State Railways class ET22 made by PIko under expert group of products. And what's interesting about this model, this locomotive represents the highest electric locomotive units ever produced across of Europe. Over 1100 of these locomotives were built in Poland. This is the newer generation of PIko packaging, PIko Expert, and just quickly sleeve, clear box inside, and you have that nice box at the back containing manual and information about the model. This is the label, catalog number 96332, and of course pouch containing small parts is included. Here's the content. Of course, air hoses, electrical harnesses for train heating system, scale couplers. I like the idea of having replacement full scale front guards. So if you decide to run one end without couplers, you can install one prototypical full front guard. Overall, first impression of the model is very good. The level of details and the quality of details is actually quite impressive. Overall paint and print quality is absolutely fantastic. Just take a look at this manufacturing plate here, which is located next to engineer's doors, and just to give you a perspective, this is 0.7 millimeters pencil. And you can still read pretty much the plate. And again, for the scale, this is 0.7 millimeters pencil. Fantastic looking pantographs, of course, spring rolled. There's some see-through railing here as well. The pantographs are executed really well. I really like them. And this is the opposite side. Nice diamond shape on the surface of the running board here. Some electrical components visible through windows. There's not much I can say. Overall, as you can see, it's an excellent looking model. A couple of things to point out. The windshield wipers, standard PIko execution. They are not add-ons. They are two separate elements, and each of them are integral parts of the windshield or the shell. There's a small split right here. I wish they were add-on photo etched. That would look fantastic. The railings here and here, they are 3D see-through, as you can see, and same thing is here. The front guard is integral part of the coupling mechanism, and that's another standard execution for PIko. And as mentioned earlier, included with the small parts are two full guards without the slots for couplers. So if you decide to run one end without the coupler, you can replace the guard here and have a proper prototypical full-size guard. And one of the unique and very nice feature of this model is the execution of headlamps. This is the prototypical execution of headlamps as per Polish State Railway regulations in the 70s and 80s, and I believe all the way to 90s. Where you can see that red end of train marker at the bottom part of the halogen. So instead of having the entire thing glowing red, you have only one small light at the bottom part of the lamp, and then you have the headlights, which is the rest of the lamp. And that is actually executed with fiber optics and actually working prototypically. And I will demonstrate this later on once we have the model on tracks. And of course full interior. Very well detailed bogies and the side frames. You can also see the suppression mechanism executed deep on the wheel, on the surface of the wheel. You can see it moving now. Very impressive. Another feature that I like about this model is the execution of side frames and the suspension. This is like a three-dimensional, 3 layers execution. And I've seen this before on PIko models. So you have some of the elements here, like the brake cylinders, then you have the suspension, sanding pipes, and the brake system below that. So it's almost like 1, 2, 3 layers. And in effect, you have like very nice three-dimensional execution. 6-axle locomotive, however only 4 wheels are powered. The middle one is a floater, and here's a more moving than the remaining wheels. You can see the sprockets here, right? Traction tires, one here, and of course one here. Close coupling mechanism for the coupler. And again, standard PIko execution. This model is equipped with 22-pin decoder interface, therefore you have a whole range of functions available from light standpoint of view. This is standard lights, high beam, I don't know how well you can see it. You have interior lights as well, cab, machine room. The red markers, which I mentioned earlier, are on separate function. You can turn them on and off. And here you can see the operation of the headlights. This is very prototypical, the bottom marker turning on at the base of the headlamp. Alright, so let's take a look inside. Industry standard snap-on shell, 4 locks, 2 on each side. Industry standard metal chassis, 5-pole motor located somewhere here centrally right below the board, 2 shafts powering both of the tracks. This model is equipped with 22-pin decoder interface. In this case, this is SU4 and standard 28mm speaker. This speaker is coming with the decoder. There's a nice nest dedicated for the speaker right below the circuit board. You have to take these 2 screws, lift the circuit board, and then you can thread the speaker in. 2 LED panels on both ends. There's also a jumper right here on the circuit board, which is controlling the machine room lights. Depends on the operation, you can have it switched to be controlled by additional function from your decoder. There's also a dedicated space for example, for capacitor. If you want to have emergency power supply for your decoder, it can be located here. There seems to be also an SUSI interface here, and you can see it right there. I can't find anything in the manual or information, so I'm not sure whether the chip is installed or not, but for those of you who are not familiar with this interface, it's pretty much function extension for your decoder. So if you want to have complex light configurations and so on, some of the high-end models are equipped with SUSI chip and interface. And I'm not sure if this one is or not. Alright, so let's go for a test drive. The low speed performance of this drive is absolutely amazing. That's speed step 1. Very smooth and constant. 3, speed step 3. Unbelievable. 6. And 7. That is impressive. And back to 1. Very nice and quiet drive, very smooth. So here's my personal conclusion. Actually, there's not much to say. I think this is exceptional model. Between the overall execution, the paint quality, the details, and the fantastic drive, and on top of that, very reasonable price, I think it's one of the best models in my collection, and I will highly recommend to anyone who is interested in buying it. Now, if you want to buy this model, and if you are interested, even though it's been classified as heavy freight locomotive, this engine was used very often in heavy passenger service as well. Especially throughout the late 70s, 80s, and all the way probably to early 90s. This model was executed in several different paint schemes. This one is the E4, which is the classic 70 kind of 80s paint scheme. And there are newer versions as well, as this locomotive is still in service. And one more model I would like to recommend for anyone who is interested in poly-state railway locomotives is the SP45, which is also executed by PIko. And even though it's completely different locomotive, diesel 6 axles and dedicated to passenger service, these models from internal execution and quality, overall quality, are pretty much identical. A very similar wheel arrangement, and the quality of execution is very close. Both of these models were released on the market between 2017 and 2018. They are still available. I will highly recommend the other one as well. There's no sound programming available on ESU website to load for this locomotive. However, there's a couple of people in Poland you can reach over, and for about $10 you can get the programming package. If you have a log sound or log programmer, you can load to your own decoder, or you can buy from them pre-programmed decoders. Actually, some of the sound files are really nice and really realistic, and I wanted to present some of the functions available. I will include the link at the bottom of my video. Here are some of my favorites. One of them is the resistor fans kicking in at high output takeoff. Thank you very much, and happy model railroading.